In a season that has seen 8 different winning teams in 12 events, one team was on the podium more than any other, Emirates Great Britain. Within those 12 events, the British were on the podium more than any other team, no less than 7 times. Until now, it has been the Australians that have frequently dominated the racing, but this season they only got into the top 3 5 times. This has also been the first full season that British driver Fletcher has been at the wheel. So while winning is a team game in SailGP, right now if you were going to have a 1-to-1 with someone on the back of a big success, Fletcher's your man. Which is why I gave him a call.
Dylan, well done. I mean, that was really, really impressive stuff. I mean, amazing to pull that off. I mean, maybe not so much having seen your performance all season, but even so, lots of pressure there. And I want to start with actually a geeky question and a bit of a dumb question, because the geeky question seems like actually the whole thing in that final race hung on that windward gate and getting that split at the top. That was what turned it around for you, wasn't it?
Yes, certainly. I guess that was sort of the moment that we had set up effectively, is kind of the way I look at it. I think that we spent a lot of time looking at how people win finals, where the overtakes happen, and we'd done a lot that day in what we think was the right route around the race course. And I was actually slightly annoyed that we weren't ahead halfway up the beat. I kind of thought when we did our JK at the bottom and ducked the Aussies, that I was like, oh, it feels like this might be us. You know, we're in pretty good shape here. But I think actually in hindsight, we sailed a little bit too fast on the port there. I think we sailed a bit below our VMG, trying to keep above foil tack speed. And I think that was a mistake in hindsight. But yeah, the move at the top, I guess from reality was it felt like it was going to be difficult for both boats, the other 2 boats, to take that right turn from the positions they were in, halfway up the beat or even, lower down. We thought, they're both going to be set up to go left. We wanted the right, and so we sort of made sure that we were there, and we also wanted to come in fast into that top gate, set up for the right turn, because that means it's very challenging for the other boats to try and take the mark off you, because they're going to be slow, they're going to be off the foils, and you're probably just going to roll around them anyway. And the Aussies really threw a curveball in there, because they'd managed to sort of, we had to duck the Aussies. We would have ducked the Kiwis if the Aussies weren't there, basically. But because the Aussies were in a very awkward position, we effectively had to give away another 60, 70 metres and had a difficult, we had to do the old high and slow to make sure we had space to get around the back and still on the foils. So, yeah, that was the curveball really for me.
Yeah, amazing. And how much did you know that there was going to be breeze over on the other side? Did you want to go down that right-hand side of the course?
Yeah, we wanted the right-hand side. And we also knew there was an opportunity to get one jibe and into the right turn at the bottom, and we wanted the right turn at the bottom. We'd seen these left shifts rolling down all day, and I think the reason the Kiwis managed to, stay ahead of us up the beat was they basically hooked into some of that left breeze, which, we were on the right side of the shift for the run, basically.
Nice one. But it was spectacular. It was amazing to see. And I think what struck me later on was, I don't think I've heard, certainly not you or anybody else on the boat, or pretty much any of the other leading teams, start to celebrate before they've even gone round the final mark. I mean, that to me sort of suggested that you knew you'd done it by then, and it was quite a margin.
Yeah, I think that maybe celebrated a bit too early, but it was, it was a big build-up. It had been a long season, and yeah, certainly felt quite incredible to pull it off when it counted.
Yeah. So now to the sort of slightly dumb question, but the obvious one is just how much does this mean to you? How much does this win, the season win, and winning that $2 million, how much does that mean to you?
Oh, it's an enormous amount. I think that there's no denying that in SailGP you're sailing against the best sailors in the world in the exact same equipment as everyone, and there's nowhere to hide at the end of the day. And so to come back, having done the first season where we just had 5 events and it was all very different, come back, I was making plenty of mistakes, earlier on in the season, and the team's been in the final once before, but to have the season we've had, win the Impact League, win the points, be the grand final, it's massive. It's something that only, I guess, the other two, the Spanish and the Aussies have both pulled it off. Felt as though last year the Spanish did an amazing job and kind of stole it off the top two boats, and I wasn't surprised to see that there wasn't going to be too much fighting in this pre-start this year, because everyone, I think, just wanted to make sure they were in the race and didn't end up in a match race like last year.
Yeah. You've had this season's performance has been really interesting, particularly for you guys, because I think, I say this without having actually crunched any of the numbers or looked at graphs or anything, but having watched every single race, it strikes me that you've been one of the most consistent, if not the most consistent team, actually. You've always sort of been up there. What do you attribute that to? Were you surprised at that? Because you got, as you've just said, you got some of the best sailors in the world around you, who are going crash and burn at times. I mean, the Australians, perfect example of being at the front 1 minute, the back the next, and you didn't seem to have too much of that. What was it that you did differently?
I think we really focused this year on what does it take to win. It sounds really simple, but it's like, okay, how do you win in SailGP? What does that look like? What's the starting approach? How do you, I don't know, it's like every little detail effectively. And we looked at, and I think that we have a different approach to some of the others for sure. And we sometimes would have a very good Saturday, and then we just do whatever we needed to do on a Sunday, which might have been a bit mediocre, just to get us into the grand final, rather than necessarily pushing super hard and trying to win every race again. And I think that it has been interesting, because if you do look at the season, we've won it on almost every metric, in terms of, if you could have had any scoring system, discards, no discards, done it off every single fleet race as a points and added it all up, it all would have pointed towards us effectively. And I think that it's an interesting one when you've got such a system like that, where you've got to deliver. But I'm really proud of how the team consistently came through, and we certainly had a high level of acceptance. You have to in SailGP. Stuff changes, start times change, equipment changes. You make mistakes. In reality, we don't train as much as you do in other forms of sailing on the yacht. So I think continuing to keep rolling with it and not letting those mistakes build up and cause you to, make more mistakes.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, you talk of that training. I mean, I think people often forget how, or aren't even aware of how little time you actually get real time on the water on those boats. How much time do you spend in the simulators? Do you spend a lot of time on simulators, or are you limited there as well?
Didn't spend any time in a simulator between Cadiz and Abu Dhabi.
Right. Really?
So it's, the sim's still got a little way to go. And I guess I did things that I thought I could do to stay sharp. And I heard that some of the other sailors were doing some similar things. I was out sailing my moth. I actually did a national ranker in the 49er. Just anything to try to stay sharp, basically.
Right. Interesting. And on one of the other things I've always found fascinating about SailGP is the ability for any team to go and look at any other team's data, and that's obviously contributed massively to keeping the competition tight, getting new people in quickly, helping them get a sort of leg up and understand how you do maneuvers. I just wonder now, given how tight the racing is, how close it is, how much knowledge is already out there now, how important is that? Is that still something, a resource that you go to frequently to go and find out how people are doing maneuvers, or is that becoming less of a thing now?
I know it's definitely critical, and to be honest, we even like in the build up to race weekends, we're watching the onboards for the other teams, and I think we have all the data, and Nick Robbins worked really well on the data side to help us understand the performance and where the differences are. But also, we all spend a lot of time watching the videos, listening to the communication, and ultimately just seeing if there's anything that, what are we doing well, but what are they doing well? What do we need to improve? And it's quite interesting, as you say, being able to look at all of it. There's nowhere to hide.
When you look down the list of social media comments. I'm sure you don't trouble yourself. You've got far too much important stuff to do than to look at those. But one of the sad things about this season is that when the wind gets light, spectators and people who want to follow it, they sort of lose interest. They don't get it. If it's under 10 knots of wind, I mean, a lot of them just come for the crash and burn, but even those that are hardened sailors don't seem to get it. And yet when you see the intensity and the level of racing that goes on in light weather, it strikes me that there's actually more pressure on you guys when it's light than when it's a steady 15, 18 knots of breeze. I mean, would that be a fair thing to say?
Yeah, it's certainly, very different. I think you often see it, don't you, in yacht racing, and that, if it's windy, like the teams that are just sort of fast, they lock in. It's hard to sail the boat, but in reality, it's maybe a little less tactical, right, when it's windy ultimately. And I do think that the conditions on Sunday, for example, it's very difficult. It's difficult to sail the boat, but also it's very difficult tactically. And your decisions that you make they affect the next leg a bit more than they do. You've got a few less options, and it's certainly different. Well, I think the grand final, just quickly, I think the grand final was a testament to that. I mean, all the teams were leading at one point or another, right?
Yeah. And yet it's such a different, I'm not sure quite how to phrase it as a question, really, because I'm not quite sure what the question is, but it does seem to be that there's a sort of a bit of a disconnect with a circuit that SailGP this is, a circuit that is hugely successful in attracting the best sailors in the world. As you've just said, in the final, everybody led at some point, and we saw that over the course of the weekend anyway in the racing. And so the racing is thrilling in that respect, if you were just looking at the place changes and the intensity of the racing. And yet it doesn't, because it's all being conducted, and SailGP have done such a good job of making these boats perform in a level of breeze that hardly snuff a bloody candle. There's a disconnect there, because when people say, oh, no breeze, it's not going to be very interesting, I just don't quite understand how. Is this a step change for sailing? Because it's not just SailGP that's achieving this in light weather. Other classes are as well. Is this just a transitional phase that we're going through, that you think that maybe in time people will get used to this, and this is how racing is played out? A lot of it is going to be under 10 knots.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, we'd obviously like to go to some breezier venues. It's always more fun when we're doing 50 knots, to be honest. But yeah, I do think it's part of sailing. And we see in other, in F1, they go to different tracks and they all have their sort of unique characteristics. And you'll always get people arguing about, oh, this track's better or this track's better or whatever. But I think that it's important that we have, as with any sort of championship, you want to sail in a number of conditions to try to ensure that the best sailors are at the top at the end across the whole breadth of what we can sail in.
There's, I mean, just going back to the light weather stuff, there's talk of, Russell was talking earlier on this season about the idea to sort of basically turbo boost the boats with electric motors in the bottom. I mean, I don't know how realistic that is, but he was certainly very up for it and very keen to sort of talk about it. Do you think that would be a step change for the sport? Would you like to see that? Is that something that would, or do you think that it would make it turn it into a different sport?
A good question. I don't know, to be honest. I mean, we see, e-foiling becomes very popular in terms of just to help you get on the foil rather than necessarily boiling around with the electric engine going the whole time. And I think that we do want to see foiling, and it's definitely more dramatic when we're foiling. And if we can do something, then yeah, I mean, we already have, changes in terms of in SailGP. There's no, with the fast boat rules, there's no pumping, so you can do as much pumping as you want with the wing and everything. And I think, yeah, we are. Maybe it is a different to a traditional form of sailing in that respect, but this is about, ultimately, it is an entertainment business, and we need to provide something that's interesting to watch. Otherwise, we won't be, if it's not interesting, then it will all stop and we won't get to sail these amazing boats.
Yeah, actually, that's a very good point you raise about pumping. I hadn't thought about that, actually, but in the windsurfing classes that caused outrage, didn't it, really? But I mean, that's a very good point. So we're seeing the intensity of the racing. This season, I think, has been the most exciting of the lot, really. I think we've seen more. I can't remember the numbers now, but I think it was like 7 or 8 different teams have won an event this year, which is quite remarkable. What do you put that down to? How has SailGP found itself in this great position now?
I think that with it being one design and the data being shared, it allows people to accelerate their learning a bit easier. And I also think that with 12 teams, you inevitably have the results a little bit more up and down. And then, we've seen some teams be very strong. The Germans have had a fantastic sort of end to the season. And I think that it's just testament to the level just improving and improving, right? And I think that's what it's only going to get harder.
Yeah, it does seem to be. It does seem in a way that SailGP has actually come of age here, that actually it's delivering pretty much exactly what they set out to do right at the beginning with the close racing.
Oh, completely. I was saying the other day, I remember being sat at the press launch in 2018 and getting presented with the wheel, and Russell, outlined his vision and what it would look like in 5 years. And I was like, well, there was a lot of doubters back then, but you can't say he hasn't achieved it right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Next year looks like being another busy season for you. And it's only a month away as well. We keep thinking about it being a great big break. It's not really, is it? It's a month's time and you're in Perth.
Yeah, exactly. Less time between the grand final and Perth than it was between Cadiz and the grand final. So, no rest for the wicked. We'll keep cracking on.
And you like that? I know you like this kind of intense stuff. You like it just to keep rattling on.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed the sort of September where we had 3 events in 4 weekends or whatever it was. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I want to come back to the cup again. I know it's I know that you'll be under pressure not to say anything about the cup, I'm sure. But it does seem like that it is I'm hesitating because I don't want to use the word training ground. It's not a training ground at all. It's a circuit in its own respect. But I mean, it does seem to be now that actually, if you want to be on your game compared to the amount of sailing that you're going to get in the cup as an America's Cup team, just generally anybody, SailGP is the place that you sort of need to be as well, really, because it's the most intense. It's foiling. It might be 2 hulls, but you're still on 1 foil.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be very careful. I've got in trouble for answering this question before, so I have to be very careful. I do not think it's a training ground for either of them. I just think they're both incredible. Like league circuits. The America's Cup's obviously steeped in history, and it's unbelievable, to be honest. And I love it, but I also love SailGP, and I think they both have their place within this sport. That's my opinion. They're slightly different, but they both have their place.
We've seen quite a lot of technical changes to the boats this year. New foils, new T-foils, and on the weekend, the new wing, 27.5 meter wing. What's your overall view? Are they all good sort of incremental step changes? Do you feel the difference? How difficult is it to get your head around it and get used to it? And B, how much of a difference has it made, or have they made?
Well, it's made a huge difference. I think if you lined up a boat from Dubai last year with the old rig and the old foils compared to now, you would destroy the old setup. It's really impressive. All the upgrades, and especially the light wind package is, super impressive. And then we saw the high wind package, where the Danes did 104 kilometers an hour or something. So I think that it's really impressive to see how much performance they've added to ultimately a 10-year-old design of boat, but it looks very different to what it did 10 years ago now. And they keep on pushing and they keep on chipping away. And I know there's plenty more in the pipeline.
Yeah, amazing. And what did the new wing feel like? 27.5 meter wing.
More similar to the 29 meter, but you didn't feel quite as cumbersome, to be honest. And you really did notice the extra sort of power. So in terms of like light wind jibes, the big rig really helps you get the hull up. Makes a huge difference. So it gives you I think from a racing perspective, it really makes a difference. You have different modes. You're not just limited with the other rig. It's harder to get that H1. So you might end up sort of sailing some either foiling or not foiling modes rather than H1 too much. Whereas downwind, we can go downwind with this rig with 1 hull in the air, basically, which you would never do with the AP wing, because it just doesn't create enough healing moments. So I think it really makes a difference for the racing, the starting, it accelerates a bit better. So it's not just the actual VMG performance. I think the racing it really makes the racing closer and more interesting.
Yeah, what a great development. So finally, you've had a really, really busy season. You've got another busy season coming up next year. What happens between now and the start of the next SailGP? Do you take time off? Are you actually finally going to have some time at home, stick the tree up and all that?
Yeah, hopefully that would be nice. I think just to keep working, to be honest, I love it. I'm going to watch a lot of SailGP. We'll get into the data and just look at, like, try and have a bit of a debrief of the whole season. Like, as you say, like, what's changed? Like, we need to keep learning faster than the other boats if we want to stay at the top. And we need to, we can't just be like, oh, because we've won this, that's going to be it. We're going to Perth. Perth's windy. Doctor's going to be there. It's going to be completely different, and we need to come out firing. So, sort of hopefully get a bit of downtime at some point. It's pretty hectic at the moment, but and then just really focusing on getting into it, and then it's sort of straight into the Australasia leg, which is going to be great fun. Love Perth. Haven't sailed there since the 49er World Championships, or the World Sailing Championships. I think it was in 2012. So it'd be great to go back. And obviously it's Perth is the hometown of Parker, our flight controller, so he's very excited.
Excellent. Thanks very much indeed, Dylan. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I really appreciate you taking the time. And good luck. Have fun in your whatever you're doing in between. And
thank you.
Look forward to seeing you out there in Perth.